So
Wow.
yeah, those are amazing. Right now, those drogue chutes are doing that initial slowdown, and it looks like we're getting views here of main parachute deploy.
We see visual on 4 healthy mains.
SpaceX Dragon, we see the same, 4 healthy mains.
And you can see that the main parachutes have deployed. They are expanding. Once they're fully expanded, they are going to slow the vehicle down all the way to about 16 miles per hour, right in time for splashing down into the Pacific Ocean today.
Right now, Dragon has saved all propulsion systems on board.
1,000.
Copy, 1,000 meters.
Dragon right now is also terminating the nitrox suit and cabin purges and is beginning to increase pressure in preparation for landing.
And additionally, the mission control team here in Hawthorne is reporting the precise landing coordinates to the recovery team so that they know exactly where
800.
Copy, 800.
Exactly where they're expected to touch down. And you are hearing those callouts. We are confirming the altitude as the vehicle makes its way back down to Earth.
And of course, now that we've had confirmation of both drogue and main parachute deployment with these great views of our crews inside Dragon on your screen now, our next major milestone is splashdown.
Yeah, very excited with these awesome views that we're getting.
600.
600 meters.
Landing in water is simpler, therefore more reliable, and it provides more margin against unlikely parachute issues. Now, we had to learn how to make Dragon waterproof, but once you do, it's rinse, review, and reuse.
400.
Copy, 400.
If you're just now joining us,
Crew racing for splashdown.
you are watching the Fram2 crew make their way back down to Earth, and amazing daytime views. I love that we got the opportunity to do this. You could see Dragon and
200.
Copy, 200 meters and braced for splashdown.
inside of that Dragon capsule are the 4 Fram2 crew members about to splash down here in just a few seconds. Welcome home, Fram2. We have confirmation of splashdown of the Dragon spacecraft. Dragon has returned home with the Fram2 crew. The SpaceX recovery ship and team have been waiting for Dragon splashdown, and they will now start making their way to the splashdown location.
Our teams have been ready and waiting for this return about 3 nautical miles away. So it's going to take them about 30 minutes to make their way to Dragon.
That was incredible.
Dragon, stable 1.
Copy, stable 1. We see main chutes cut. On behalf of SpaceX, welcome home.
Great confirmation there from our mission control team that we've seen main chutes cut. We do that to make sure that those main parachutes, once the capsule is safely back in the water, don't pick up any wind or drag the capsule. As we have our 3 recovery vessels, the main Shannon recovery vessel and those 2 fast boats on their way out to greet our crew.
System safety verifications are in progress. We'll report back when recovery personnel are en route.
Copy.
Pretty up-close view of the Dragon spacecraft. The Fram2 crew still inside. Welcome back to Chun, Yannicka, Eric, and Rabia after their few days in orbit, in polar orbit around the Earth. Very excited to have them back home. They're actually not done with their research experiments. They do have one more coming up, which will be exiting the Dragon capsule unassisted. Now, we have done this before, just not in Dragon, so this will be a great experiment to have for ending their 4-day mission in space.
This crew really has contributed to a tremendous number of experiments. They did 22 while on orbit, contributing to a lot of firsts, as well as continuing some longitudinal studies that have been in work for quite some time. The most notable of these was a glucose monitoring experiment, which will help us better understand how glucose performs in the body on both short and long duration space flights.
Now we're currently just waiting for the two fast boats as they're making their way to approach the vehicle. They are going to pick up those main parachutes out of the water and then approach the vehicle, ensure that the vehicle is safe. There's no hazardous gases around the Dragon capsule, and then they'll begin starting their rigging operations to be able to pull the Dragon capsule up out of the water onto the recovery vessel.
Right now, our Fram2 astronauts are safely inside Dragon as we await for those recovery teams to arrive. Again, they have been stationed about 3 nautical miles away. And then during our final descent, our team was locking in on the precise GPS coordinates of Dragon on landing to communicate that to those recovery teams.
SpaceX is go for recovery personnel to approach. Expect personnel alongside in 1 minute.
And you can see that the fast boats...
I can copy expecting personnel alongside in 1 minute.
There you can see that the fast boats are now approaching. Hence the word fast. That was pretty quick. What a view. We are in the Pacific Ocean. This is the first time Dragon has splashed down off the west coast. It's so awesome that we got daytime views of this moment here. Now the recovery team is approaching the Dragon capsule. As I mentioned earlier, they are going to try and make sure that the vehicle is safe before they begin additional recovery operations.
We're getting some great images of it here, but recovery is really a very dynamic set of operations with a lot of teams moving closely coordinated to make sure that we can get those astronauts and capsule safe.
The next call will be from the flight surgeon on Dragon and Ground Private.
A little more communication there from our core to our crew on board about what to expect. And obviously our teams are continuing to work here to make sure everyone is as safe as possible.
And you heard that call out that they're going to be talking on a private net. That's because they're performing medical checks with the crew to see how they're doing, how they're feeling, make sure that they're feeling okay after, again, that was a lot of dynamic events that were happening that they experienced coming back through the Earth's atmosphere. So just want to make sure that the crew is feeling okay and checking in with them.
Right now we have images on your screen of that first fast boat beginning to connect some of the lift rigging to the top of the Dragon capsule. And meanwhile, our recovery vessel Shannon is preparing to receive the Dragon on board so that we can do that egress of the crew.
Once again, if you're just now joining us, you are tuned in to the Splashdown program as Fram2 has made their way back down to Earth. 4 crew members still patiently waiting inside of the Dragon capsule that you see there on your screen. And we are currently in procedure of the recovery operations. The next milestone that we should be able to visually see will be when the Shannon recovery vessel approaches the Dragon capsule, and then we will lift the capsule up out of the water into what we call the Dragon nest on board the recovery ship. And as a reminder, we typically have previously splashed down in the Gulf and off the coast of Florida. But today, we splashed down off the west coast in the Pacific Ocean for the very first time in Dragon.
Right now, our teams are working on lowering the vessel's hydraulic lift mechanism on board Shannon into the water to bring Dragon up on deck. We'll go ahead and put it in the Dragon nest we were talking about a little bit earlier there. This really is a closely coordinated effort between a lot of different teams, and we're seeing a lot of different vessels, team members, all work together in these different shots that we're getting from the drone covering recovery today.
And you can see how calm the water looks in the Pacific Ocean. That is one of the weather factors that we do monitor for a crew splashdown, and it looks very calm. Weather looks great, blue skies. I'm sure the crew will be happy to step out for the first time, get their first breath of fresh air from the Pacific Ocean and see some blue skies.
Yeah, their first experience back on Earth since they launched on March 31st from Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Our crew took off from LC-39A, which is also a historic launch pad in many ways, and is the one that we most often launch from for our crewed missions here at SpaceX.
And we've mentioned this before, but as you can see on the recovery vessel, there is a helicopter pad there. And that was what Marissa was standing on when we were talking with her earlier through Starlink. But the crew will be lifted on to the ship on the capsule. They'll exit in a great view there of the nest that the capsule will be lifted and set onto. And once they complete some medical checks, they will actually get on a helicopter that will land on that helicopter pad on top of the ship and take them back to land a little bit faster than being on the ship.
Dragon SpaceX, rigging complete. Approximately 5 minutes until capsule lift.
Dragon copy. 5 minutes until capsule lift.
Request to bring cameras back on board.
SpaceX Dragon, stand by.
Copy. Standing by. One other note, please be advised the ground team is working to clear the insufficient O2 for full depress caution from your board.
Dragon copy.
You may have heard those comms there, but getting very close to Dragon being lifted out of the water with that hydraulic lift system there.
Very cool to get a chance to see this recovery vessel at work, too. There are a lot of different ground and water-based support systems that go into every launch and recovery.
Brace for capsule lift.
Dragon copy, brace for capsule lift.
We also saw our iconic team member jump into the water. The Fram2 crew inside of the Dragon capsule being lifted out of the water and will be gently placed on that Dragon nest that you see there. These views are awesome. This is so cool.
In case you are...
SpaceX Dragon, still requesting to stand by on cameras internal.
No problem. Cameras will remain external.
Some more communication there between our crew and mission control. In case you joined us later in the webcast, this was our first recovery of a Dragon off the West Coast. So it'll be interesting to hear what our recovery teams have to say about the differences between operating on the West and East Coast. Typically, the West Coast water is a little bit colder, so we'll see what the fast boat crew members especially have to say about the difference.
Hopefully, with the warmer, sunny weather, it was a little bit warmer in the water for them.
Yeah, we had beautiful days, beautiful daytime views today of Dragon's recovery. We did splash down just off the coast of Oceanside, California, but we narrowed that selection down from 3 possible landing sites along the West Coast today. And all of that was decided in part by weather, but a lot of other different variables.
Dragon, go for cameras internal.
Copy. Taking cameras internal.
Dragon copy.
Looking good, guys.
Now, before we move forward with, there's our first first view of the crew following splashdown. Everybody looking happy, healthy. The first person to meet with the crew is actually going to be a SpaceX medical officer to continue checking on the health of the astronauts. See some fist bumps there. Everybody's happy to be home.
Welcome aboard the recovery vessel. Recovery personnel are completing their final checks. Stand by for translation to the egress platform.
Dragon copy. Standing by.
That's so awesome to see them so connected with each other and excited, holding hands as they, are completing the final steps of their mission, which is not quite over yet. Exiting the capsule is a part of their research. So they've got one more step to go before this mission is complete. Looks like Rabia is trying to experience what gravity is like again.
It'll be great to hear their description of having been up in space, given the wide variety of backgrounds that they brought to this mission.
Right.
Right now, we are standing by for translation of the Dragon up to the deck before opening the hatch on board Dragon. Before opening the hatch, the spacecraft's cabin pressure needs to be equalized with the outside environment, so we may hear some chatter about that as well. Once the hatch is opened, we mentioned it earlier, but that will be our crew's first breath of fresh air since boarding Falcon 9 at the start of their mission on March 31st.
The astronauts will egress from Dragon's side hatch, pending spacecraft orientation or translation to the deck on the recovery vessel.
Some more views on the left-hand side of your screen of our recovery teams interacting with the capsule, getting everything ready for that translation movement. And on the right-hand side, of course, we have the smiling faces of our Fram2s.
And if you're looking at the right hand of your screen, from left to right, we have Mission Specialist and Medical Officer Eric Phillips. And then in the seat, maybe a little bit tired from the mission. In the seat next to him is the pilot, Rabia Roga. And then Vehicle Commander Yannicka McNicholson and Mission Commander Chun Wang, all patiently waiting for the Dragon capsule to translate to the deck, that Dragon hatch to open and take their first breath of fresh air back on Earth in a few days.
This crew completed just about 55 orbits of the Earth during their mission, passing over the poles roughly every 46.5 minutes.
Yeah, and just cool to just get a different perspective of Earth in the polar orbit. No crew has ever orbited that orbit before, which is so awesome that this Fram2 crew has made history. And selfies. And it's cool that Chun is using his phone even with his gloves on. These are gloves that are made to work with displays, and it looks like it still works with your phone.
I'm excited to see that picture.
Yeah, I know.
Of course, we do have our crew visors up at this point because we are safely on board Shannon, our recovery vessel. But the space suits really are an extension of the Dragon capsule. So our crew dons them both for ascent and descent and any dynamic phases of flight on board Dragon. So we're getting these great views inside here. It looks like maybe another selfie is happening, which is great. And now that visors are up, we've got great views of all of our crew faces, smiling here, happy to be home. And looks like everybody's doing really well.
Yeah. And a great view of our Fram2 crew just before they exit the spacecraft. And they look very excited.
They do look really happy. I think it would be hard not to be coming back from like the first polar mission, people you've known a long time, worked with before. This is a really exciting mission.
Yeah, and they've done a lot of great work, a lot of research experiments, and just got to see some of the most incredible views that most people don't get to see out of the Dragon cupola during their time in space.
Our commander, Chun Wang, actually said on X in one of his posts from Starlink while they were on board that this trajectory was designed for that reason. They wanted to be able to see the areas that they loved and called home, which people don't usually get to see from the orbits that we usually fly. So that's what really motivated this polar exploration mission.
Now, as a reminder, the crew will be exiting the spacecraft unassisted, but the recovery team is there, helping to clear some of their belongings there. But they will remove their footrests themselves, get out of their seat themselves, and exit the spacecraft themselves. And on your screen closest to us is Mission Specialist Medical Officer Eric Phillips. Next to him in the pilot seat is Mission Pilot Rabia Roga.
Looks like Rabia is the first one who's going to exit Dragon here.
Looks like Rabia was able to pull herself out of her seat, and looks like she's standing there. And removing her footrest of her specific seat. Oh, it looks like some cargo, actually. Rabia Roga was our mission pilot for the Fram2 crew. It was the first to get up out of her seats and exit the spacecraft.
This is a really big shift for our astronauts.
And
there she is.
She is standing and very happy and excited.
Oh, that's great.
Awesome. Mission pilot Rabia Roga of the Fram2 crew. Looks like Eric Phillips is up next. And there's Eric Phillips standing tall.
All smiles exiting Dragon. This is great.
And looks like Vehicle Commander Jannica Mikkelsen is now out of her seat. Lifting up some cargo. There she goes. Jannica Mikkelsen. Very, very excited. And last but especially not least, Mission Commander Chun Wang will conclude this final research experiment in a few moments.
Just in case you're just joining us, the experiment that we're doing right now is watching our crew exit Dragon unassisted. The reason that's important is because when you're up in space operating in microgravity, we see some changes in bone density, muscle strength, even over a short period of time. So we're testing our crew's ability to exit the Dragon spacecraft unassisted, in no small part because in the future, either on the moon or on Mars, we may not have a recovery team there to meet our astronauts.
Especially when we go for the first time.
Again, this is our mission commander, Chun Wang, exiting Dragon.
Also reaching for some cargo. And Mission Commander Chun Wang has now exited the spacecraft. What an awesome team, awesome mission, and a diverse group of experience. Excellent mission. This was an awesome, very unique and different experience, and I can't wait to hear more from the crew and what their experience was like on orbit.